Hello everyone, my name is Eric Garcia and I'm a 3D artist with focus on environments. I'm in the game industry for almost 6 years now and I'm from Brazil, so English is not my main language. So please be patient with me because I will struggle a little bit trying to say some things, but I'll do my best. First of all, I want to thank the Stylized Station for inviting me on doing this breakdown of my latest personal project, the high-tech retro bike. Stylized Station is a great place to see some stylized art. There are some great artists there sharing their knowledge, and I'm glad to be a part of it now. In this video, I'm gonna go through all my process on doing this, starting on how and why did I choose this, how do I plan to do it, and after that we're gonna jump into Maya on some 3D modeling about how did I do the blocking, the high poly, the low poly, some quick tips. And after that we're gonna go into Substance Painter to do all the bakes and all the textures. And after that I'm gonna go talk about a little more about the presentation itself, how to present your work to other people. And yeah, let's jump right into it. So, being an environment artist, a single work could take months to finish. Usually takes 2 to 3 months, even more, depending on the size of the art. But I wanted to try and do something more simple and quick to do. So I started browsing Artstation to looking for a great concept that I really like it, and I ended up in the page of this Russian artist. I'm not gonna say this name because I probably would say it wrong, so let's leave it that way. And this artist has some great concept arts, and I ended up choosing this bike right here because I really love the style, and I've been always a huge fan of the Overwatch-Style, and I thought this was a perfect fit in that style, and I wanted to try to do something with it. So that's how I chose the prop. So in the blocking stage, I just have Maya opened here, and in case of you're wondering, this is pure ref. I like to put my references here because it has some controls that I can, for example, make it always on top. So even if I click the program, if I interact with it, the image keeps on top of it. So it's a great software to play some references in case you don't have a second monitor or anything else. But yeah, to start modeling, this step is here is really important because you will be making the overall shapes, and you have to pay attention here on the silhouette, the relation between all the parts of the bicycle, and the sizes of everything. It just don't have it doesn't have a right way on doing it. You just have to keep on trying, keep on making. And yes, reversing here. So yeah, there's a little bit wider this wheel. So you just have to put everything in place in here and adjust the sizes of everything. For example, this wheel looks like to me it's a little more bigger than the front one. So it might be just the perspective, but it's my interpretation of it. And let me see, let me put some the middle part of the bicycle here. As I told you, there is not a right way on doing it. You just have to keep on trying and pay attention to the position, to the shapes. This is a important step of the way, because here you can make all the adjustments that you wanted. You're gonna make many mistakes in the process. So sooner you do them, the better, because you can adjust it very fast if it's in this first part. So yeah, there is not much to say about this. It's just you have to model everything. You have to do all the parts, and you just have to keep adjusting and the sizes, the shapes. Let me see here. Yeah, it's a really I mean fast part. It's not fast, but it's more loosey, because you don't have to do it uh, perfectly here. You just have to throw some primitives and to understand how the shape of the bike is gonna be, and where do you need more work, or where do you where the model is kind of looking strange, so you can adjust. Yeah, let me see here. The principal tools of the modeler here are the extrude and the bevels. Even if you're talking about hard surface, so the bevel itself is even more important. So yeah, let me make some adjustment in here. And as I say, maybe it's time for a bevel in here. Let me adjust a little bit. Yeah, okay. And you just have to keep doing this until you're happy with all the overall shape that you have. And let me show here the the final version one of the blocking of my bicycle. This is more advanced than a blocking stage. It's more like a, 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 a step forward on the block itself, because I've made some details already, and but I I did not. Yeah, yeah. That's more like a middle process of it, but it's like I've joined these parts in the the next steps, but in here it was not necessary, because I don't know if I wanted this, or if this is gonna be a little more in the back of the bike, so I could adjust the position, and when I was happy with it, I just make a single mesh. So one quick tip that I wanted to share with you is how did I do this round metal shapes right here. I've used it in this part, like the little basket thingy on this bike, and the handles is like, let me show you here real quickly. Mm, I just have to make it the shape that I wanted in the polygon, in a primitive. Like here I'm using a cube, because the shape it's more like I can I can see a cube here. It's more easy to to achieve this shape from a cube. And yeah, let me see here a little more about here. And yeah, so As you can see, the shape is a little close, and all I have to do is to extrude to give us a certain depth to it. And let me do this curvature right here. So I'll just bevel it, added a few segments. Yeah, that seems okay. And another parts that have rounded, it's those edges here. So I just do another bevel with a few segments, and yeah, it looks okay to me. So it's not looking good at the moment because we're gonna do some tricky in here. Like I've only did the depth of the model to give this bevel edges, and now all I have to do is let me just soften these edges right here, and let me select those border edges that are in the format that I wanted. And in here, this modify tab, I'm going to converge, and where is it? And where is it? Here, polygon edges to curve. So when I click it, I can hide my polygon surface, and all I have is this curve in here in the format that I wanted. So the shape it's already there, but now we have to make this roundy, this tube shaping. So I will just create here curve, a rounded curve, a circle shaped curve. Let me see. I'm gonna throw at the side so it's easier to see. And I'll just select first the curve that I wanted. Let me just delete the history. First the curve, then first the circle curve, then the shape that I want. And I've come here to surfaces and extrude. Yeah, that's right. And when you click it, it's get a little messy. It's not what I wanted, but it's because the parameters are not right yet. So I'll just have to choose the component pivot and the fixed path. So the shape, it's there, but the normals are inverted. Let me see if I can do this. Yeah, I just rotated the circle, so now it get the right shape that I want. And what's best of this technique is that I can even change the radius of this circle shape, and it it, it modifies the shape that I did in real time. So if I did it too bulky, I can make a little bit thinner, just adjusting the circle right here. To the next step, I was already happy with my block out and the step forward on it, the addition of the details and the position and the shapes, the overall shape of the bike itself, all the proportions were good. So I was ready to move on to the next stage, and this is the one. I didn't want it to go to ZBrush to make the high poly version because I didn't want it to add too much uh, scratches or too much of the the details that ZBrush is good for. So I've kept it in Maya. I did I've called the mid poly here because it is ready to smooth. I'm pressing 3 here, so it's moved it smooths everything. And to do this, it's not a big secret. All you have to do is to protect those edges where you want it to with another edge loop. So when you smooth it, it keeps the hard surface looking. So this is a huge task. It could take many hours of work, but yeah, when it was already ready to be smoothed, so I've duplicated so it's not destructive. And this is the high poly version of it. As you can see, there is many polygons in here, but it's for a good cause. I'm gonna bake it later in the low poly version. So in the low poly, in the textures, I wanted to have this softly lines, the soft lines. And besides, it's a hard edge model. It's always good to have those not so hard edges because it looks like 3D. As my high poly version of it was ready, I was ready to move on to the next stage, that is the low poly version of it. So this is the version that will be used in the engine later. And some of the parts I've tried to use the meshes that I did in the blockout phase because they were not too much different. And some of the parts, like the seat, for example, I did in the retopology tool in Maya. That is a great tool. I love it. It is kind of relaxing to do it. So let me show you here the process that I did. So let's see. I'm gonna turn this seat here into a low poly version. So what I have to do is, let me just throw away of this group. And to make it work, you have to transform this mesh here into a live one, make live. So it's not clickable anymore. But when you create polygons, it will snap in the surface, so it keeps the shapes. The retopology tool is in here. It is called Quaddraw, and let me just activate the symmetry. So yeah, as you can see, when I click it, it it snaps into the surface of the seat. So all I have to do here is to match the shapes of the seat and to keep creating those quads in the low poly version of it. With a single click in an empty area, you create a vertex, and holding shift in the middle of 4 vertices, it shows you a quad, and you just click it to confirm that you want a quad there. And if you click on the pre-existing edge or vertex or face, you can adjust the position. So you just have to keep on creating. A tip here is to create first the edges of the model. Think like it. Think like a puzzle. You would start with the borders and then you go to the middle to be easier. And let me see. You can also hold tab and click on the edge to extrude it. There are many great features in this tool here. So I can just keeps extruding to follow this the format here of this little thing. And with shift, and if I want to add a division in the middle, because if I'm gonna look to the side of it, it's not properly shaped, so I can add an edge loop here. So I'll just hold Ctrl, and it shows me this pre-visualization of an edge loop. So if I click it, it adds the edge loop, and it also snaps into the surface. So yeah, this is a as I told, is a great tool. It's a relaxing one. You just don't have to think too much when doing it. It's great to let some 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 videos to watch some videos while you're doing it. It's just a task of patience more than technical difficulty, you know. So yeah, you just have to keep on doing it until you're ready. I've made it some shape here, and let me see. When you don't want to be this live anymore, you don't have to select it because you cannot. You just simply go to modify again and make not live, so it's clickable again. And after that, my low poly version of the bike was ready to the next stage, that is the UV planning, the UV mapping. Just to go real quickly through the process of the UV mapping part, and let's do the seed again. So usually when I do the UV mapping, I start with the planar and the model. You can left click it, or you can right click it to get another rotation, another direction of the planar one. So I'll just do this, and the UV mapping, all you have to do is to make it planar, the 3D model to turn into a planar shape. So you just have to select the edges where you want to cut your model. Let me try this here. And yeah, okay. So I'll just come here in the cut and sew tab and just cut. UV select, UV shell. There are already two parts in here. So I want to also separate this part right here, because I think there's going to be too much of distortion in the planes. So it's better to separate those areas. You get used to it and to think where you plan to cut those things. The more you do, the more you you get used to it. Okay, that seems right. So I'll just cut right here and UV shell. Yeah, so if I've selected a UV shell, and let's just open this. It's not with Control, it's Shift. Unfold and unfold again. So this part right here got turned into a planar version. And let's do the same thing with this one. We got some distortions, some strange things going on here. We're just gonna see what we can do and unfold this also. They are already looking good. Let's just fix this one. let me see if I just get this edge right here and cut, and let's do an unfold again. If this, yeah, it worked much better now. It looks like an ant head. So if I just go through just click on this UV thing and shading, yeah, you can see here that is almost no distortion in all these meshes. You see this because all the little squares are almost perfect squares. And yeah, you just have to do this in all the parts because everything is messy right now. This could take some time also, but is nice when it gets done. Let me just select once again this here. Yeah, so all the model got mapped already, and it's ready to go to the next stage, that is the bake process and then the texturing one. So let's go there. So let's jump now into the texturing phase. This part is really exciting. It's when your model starts to gain life. So first of all, we need to bake all those maps that we will need in the future. So I'm in Substance Painter, and we just have to go to bake mesh maps, and let's bake it into 2K. And in the common section, you will choose here the high poly version, and here I like to leave it by mesh name, because what this do is when you bake the texture maps, one mesh doesn't influence into the other mesh next to it, because when I export it, I rename it everything, so the parts with the high poly version and the low poly version of the same mesh has the same name. So when I choose here to match by mesh name, it will not be affected by all the meshes around it. So let's just bake here. Yeah, okay, so the normal map is already applied. So you can see this is the low poly mesh, but it has all the high poly details because of the normal map. And to bake all the other maps, you just have to do the same thing I did for the all those texture maps, but I didn't do the thickness one because I didn't want to. And the most important ones that you're gonna use a lot are the curvature one, and the most important is the ambient occlusion one, because when you will when you make all the masks to make the texture, you will need pretty much all the information that the ambient occlusion gave us. Give us. So if you want to self-occlude, you can choose the same thing that we chose in the comment section. Only same mesh name. Only same mesh name. If I don't want to the meshes occlude each other, only by mesh name. So I will just make it and let this in always. And yeah, you just have to bake all the maps and you get ready to start. After I baked all my maps, they are all here, and we can start texturing it. So one of the maps that I baked is the ID one. What it makes, it grabs the material, the color of the material that I did in Maya, inside Maya, And just so you can see this here, you can choose by color source its material color or some other properties here. So as I've made it a few different materials with different colors. So I've chose this material color one. So it gave me this information right here, and it can help me to texture and to see the colors itself, and it could be helpful in any time. But yeah, I started with this, and the complete model, the complete texture is in here. Let me just show you everything in here. So yeah, this is all the steps already taken. So let me just do a breakdown of how did all those textures and some tips. And yeah, for the start, let me just hide everything in here. And yeah, I've created a fill layer. You can go to this here, and I've chose to influence the color, the rough metal, the normal and the height. It will be necessary later. But yeah, I've picked a color here, a bluish color, and I've chose some roughness in here. Not so much spread and not so much reflexive, reflective. And I kept adding things. So one of the first thing that I did was to add some color variations to this metal. I did this by using this gradient right here. You know, you see what this does? I've picked, I've added a black mask here and added a generator. I'm sorry. I've added this generator here, and I've chose some 3D linear gradient. So what this does is this takes the whole model, the position of the model, and it can do a gradient on top of everything. You know, if I click with Alt in the mask here, you can see what this is doing. So I can mess with these parameters. So I can choose where this mask will influence more the contrast of it. And if I click M, it will get back to the material. So all the color variations are important because you have to make your texturing interesting. If you let just a single color, it is cool, but it's not that cool. you know. So I've chose this brownish color. So we have these contrary colors here, like more bluish on top of it, more brownish on the bottom of it, like simulating that there is a ground in here. So just to add more interest on it. And the second thing that I did was this big step right here. It's the occlusion one. When I activate it, just see what happens. The model itself, it gets much more clearer. You know, that's why I told you that the occlusion map was that important, because you can add so much to the clearness of your model with just the occlusion information. So how to achieve this look that I did here? So I've added a black mask once again. Right right click on here and add a black mask, and I filled with the ambient occlusion that I baked, and then I inverted it. So all the intersections of the meshes get occluded, gets the occlusion information, and I just added some levels on it so I can make it even more prominent, you know, more darker, more spread. I can just mess with the sliders in here so I can get where I want. And then it gets some noisy, it gets a little bit noisy, so I just added a blur on top of it so it gets this smoothed shady. So with just this occlusion one, the bicycle itself got r- even more readable, if you know what I mean. It's more clear, like the shapes of it and everything. And then I've added another layer with the occlusion once again, so I could add more details and with some color variation, like a dirt or something. And then I've added this to make the metal more interesting. I've added this roughness in here. That is this that use the position in the workspace normals. It uses a custom. It's a material that I've chosen in the material section. So as you can see here, I can choose the scale. Let's zoom in too. I can choose the scale, the grunge scale. It's just messing with those sliders and those numbers until you get where you want it, where you get more interesting. So we've came to this part where the metal was this looking. With all those additions that we've made, it gets this looking. So it's really more interesting than before, and I just repeated this in all of the other parts of the model, like the metal dark and the metal blue and the metal blue lighter far behind there. And I was just keep adding those kinds of masks and those kinds of color variations and using and abusing the occlusion map. And let's see, the rubber, I did the same thing. It just have some variations in the roughness channel right here. Another grunge. And the leather were the same thing, was the same thing. And here I've added a pattern on top of it, so it gets even more different from the another materials on the bike, and it gets more interesting as well, even more leather looking. So how I did this pattern right here, I've added a black mask, and I've added in this black mask paint, so I can choose where to apply it. So if you can see here, it's just on the handles and the seat. And inside here, I've added this black mask once again, and I've chose here to do let's see, a fill layer. Once again, I've clicked with the right mouse button and added a fill layer. And in the fill, I chose the hexagon texture. It's in the patterns. Let's see here. It's in the alphas procedurals, maybe. Let's see. Yeah, it's in procedurals. In here, it's some hexagon patterns. I've used this one, and I've just messed with some numbers once again. You can make it bigger, you can make it more contrasted, and yeah, so the material got more interesting. Let's see. After that, I did the lights pretty much the same way. One thing different here is that I've chosen on emission. I filled it with some color on the emissive besides color, so it looks like it's lighted. And yeah, for the texture overall, it was it. So after that, I've made some more detailing stuff that I'm gonna be going over now in the next part. At this point, I was happy with the texture with the model, but I thought it was lacking something. It could be more interesting. So I've asked a few friends some feedbacks on what they have to tell me about it, where could I improve, and one of them, the friend of mine, Guilherme Ramalho, he did me a paint over to give more personality in this bike. So he painted some stories on it, like the a battery in here. It's more like towards a green energy bike with some logo of the company in here, simulating that there was some things going on inside of this seat in here. And when I saw that, I thought that it was really great. It has really forced the bike itself to be more interesting. It told more more stories. It gave more personality on it. So I was really happy with that paint over. Thank you, Guilherme. And what I and after that I just get those feedbacks and started doing it inside Substance. So I've added this power HUD right here. It's more like a battery of the bike. Nothing fancy here, just emissives and some masks for the separators, color base, and this custom painting to make the metal part, the blue metal parts more interesting with some custom shapes and to tell more stories. And the battery here, the leaf logo, and the velocity panel and the on and off of the bike, and the the mud that tells a little more story about it, like it's more used. It has been used many times, and it is dirty. It has some dry mud on it. So let me show you how did I do this mud layer right here. So I've created, let me see here. I've created a fill layer and I painted. Let's see here. Yeah. So I've created this fill layer right here with some dark brownish color, and to choose where to apply this mud material, I've used this grunge map right here, and so it gets more messy and not so uniform that it was before. So that was the first mask, and after that I've come to the folder itself, and let me see here, yeah, I've painted where I wanted to this mud to be shown. I've added this paint, and uh, same as everything else, I have added a black mask, and I've added a paint on it. And to paint the mud reveal parts, I've just chose an alpha in here. This is too smoothly, too roundy, so I've grabbed one more grungy in here. I don't remember which one I've used, but let's say that this dirt smudge right here. So I've started painting where I wanted to to show the mud. I just press X, so I change into white and black, so I'm painting a mask, not the mud itself. So I don't want the mud to be shown here, but I want to be shown here. So I just painted a little more a little more dirty in here. And I kept doing this in every part that I found necessary. And after that, I've added another few layer with mud, pretty much the same process, but uh, a more lighter type of mud, a more dry. So it also has color variations, you know. There are some few spots with the darker mud on it, but it adds more depth to it and more interest. So that's how I created the mud. And one last step that was missing, and I thought it added so much in the end, it's these decals right here. Let me zoom in so you can see better. What this does, it adds some shapes to the normal map. So it looks like I've modeled this and I've baked this into the high poly, into the low poly. But I've added all of this inside of Substance Painter. And it added more, it added this layer of detail that it brings so much interest, so much more interest to the whole bike. I've used it in many places, but with the careful that not using too much, so it don't turn out to be noisy. You know, it don't doesn't use too much, so it can be clearer, but with details as well. So let me show you how I did this. And I've created this layer. This is important. It's not a fill layer, it's a normal layer. It's this one right here. So I've added this normal layer, and I've added a paint on it, you know. So in this layer, I've chose no color, no rough, no metal, just height normal. Let me see, just normal, sorry. And in this normal right here, I've came to this hard surfaces tab, and there are plenty types to choose from here. You can do custom ones as well, but I didn't want to. This one's already was I wanted. So let me see. I'll just grab some random one right here, and I just go to choose one of them and grab to the normal stage here, to the this normal place. And as you can see, it shows me in my brush here. I've come to a problem when doing this. If this not show in your brush, you just have to come right here in this full preview cursor. If it's not in full preview, you have to left in this full preview, like in the crosshair. You just see a crosshair. You don't see the normal alpha in this brush. Also, you just have to let in the full preview cursor so you can see it. And all I need to do now is to paint. So when I paint it, it gets into the normal map and it influences the light, and it adds much detail to the model itself. So I was just choosing the right ones and place it in in some spots that looks interesting. I've added this petal detail right here, and overall this added so much in the final model. It gives the level of detail that was lacking. So yeah, that was pretty much all the process that I did, and the texturing of this bike. And it was ready to go to the next stage, that it was setting up the environment or the engine or the place where I would take the images to make the presentation. Yeah, now that we've came along those many processes, we've came along the modeling itself, the all of the modeling steps through the texturing steps. Now that your model is ready to present, you need to make your presentation. So this presentation, it's very important because it's as important as the whole processes. Because imagine that you came along all the way to this part, took care of all the details and make what you like it, and the model is really great, but no one can see it, no one will see it because your presentation, it's not great, you know. So it needs to take a good care of. You need to plan well your presentation to show everything that you want to show and to make people see it, you know. So to present my bike, I've thought in a little shots that I wanted some beauty shots to show the the environment or where this bike lives, and some technical shots. So it's more like to see the wireframe and to see the overall shapes and the proportions. And I've chose Marmoset so I can set up everything in here. It's a great program as well. And this scene in the Marmoset I did just to make the technical shots, to make the technical presentation. So I've just set up a few cameras in here so I can create a new camera and to place it wherever I want, and I just choose the camera in here. So yes, that's the camera one to show some angle. That's the front to show a little more of the detail in the handlebar, and some camera trying to find a good thumbnail. I will talk more about that soon. And yeah, the setup here was not too much work. It's just simple. It's just a skylight with some HDRI chosen here. I've chose this one because of the colors and the illumination. But you can choose which one do you like, you can try and other things in here. They all affect the illumination of the scene. So I chose this late day field here, and as I told, I put these cameras in the places that I wanted. I've messed it up a little bit with the post effect, so I can give more sharpen. I've sharpened it a bit because without it, it gets a little blurry. So it helps a lot with the the shapes and the clearness of the art itself, and some brightness so the emissives could lighten up the scene a little bit more, little vignetting. There's nothing too fancy in here. As I said, it's a simple setup, so the bike it's clear to be seen. And uh, so I had my technical shots ready. I've took all the images that I've wanted, but I still wanted to do some beauty shots. I wanted to demonstrate where this bike lives, like how is the world where this bike is used. So it gives more readability. It's not readability. It gives more like a believability to it. You know, you can imagine even more. It adds even more stories and interest to the prop itself. So I've wanted to create an environment for it just to these few shots. So you know how the presentation is important. So I've came I've came to Maya, and where is my bike here? Yes, it's right here, and I've gave it a real quick pose to the bike, just so it's not straight. It's more like natural in the environment. And to do this environment right here, I've had this idea of I wanted to be really simple. I didn't want it to take so long to do this because it was pretty much made for 3 shots of my presentation. So I've made like a blockout phase. There's many things going wrong with the wireframe, but I don't care because I wasn't gonna use this anywhere else, just to take a few shots. So I've wanted this like alley thing with the many trash thrown on the ground, some boxes, and some huge pipes going through the ceiling, and it's more like a cyberpunkish, more like a, I don't want to say post-apocalyptic, but it's something like this. And these little houses in here, just to show a little more about the world where this bike, where you can find this bike, you know. So I've blocked this whole alley in like a few days only because I wanted to keep it simple. And I've went to another marmoset scene and took everything in here and just added a few materials just to have some different things going on, and lights reflecting in here, and just to give this visual, this scene a little more interest, you know, so the beauty shots could be more interest. And yeah, this was just for a few shots, but in the presentation itself, it helped a lot in telling the story of this bike. You know, in my presentation here, you can see, and I've made also a video just to see it in some other points of view. And these technical shots that I've took earlier in that other marmoset scene, and the wireframe one just to show the wireframe. And this marmoset viewer, so the person who see this could analyze it better and to look at some points that I didn't show in these images right here. And all that was missing now was the thumbnail. Why did I wanted to talk about thumbnail? Because it's as important as the presentation itself, because it's gonna be at the middle of many other arts from other artists, and so many great arts. Your thumbnail have to stand out in any way, so the people seeing the Artstation could see your art in the middle of there and have this impulse to click on it. They have to see it. So I've this test right here is a great tip to test some thumbnails. Like I've taken this screenshot in the Artstation page and made a little mask so I could simulate that my work was already there. I took some random place in here and I've made this mask, and I just took a few shots, and I just different angles, different points of view of the bike, and I've tested all of them in this simulation area, so I can choose which one was better for me and which one stood out more, and so the people see it could see it better, could find your art in the middle of the other ones, and to click it and see it. So yeah. So yeah, that was the full breakdown of my work. I want to thanks everybody for having me here, for watching this video through the end. Thanks once again, Stylized Station, for inviting me. It was a great pleasure to be a part of it. And thanks to Gui Ramalho for helping me with feedbacks and critiques. And also thanks for Jeremy Dynasty with all those critiques and feedbacks also in his live stream. And if you don't know if you don't know him, he has a Discord channel called Dynasty. I could send you a link after. And it's a great community of artists all around the world, all around the knowledge levels. Like there are some students, there are some people like 15 years inside of game industry already. So everyone is willing to help and to critique and to help you grow up as an artist. And yeah, I hope I encourage you to do your art and to improve your skills in this difficult time that we are going through. And if you like what you saw, you can check on me in my Artstation page and all my other social media pages. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me, feel free to reach me out, and I will be glad to help if I can. Thank you, everyone. I see you soon. See you later.